Good afternoon, dear viewers. I welcome all the civil engineering candidates and viewers for online lab experiment. In today's session, I am going to discuss about the identification of metamorphic rocks. Let us start the topic. So, as per the JNTU regulations, engineering geology lab consists of 9 experiments. Among the 9 experiments, megascopic identification of metamorphic rocks, that is 5th experiment, is explained in today's session. Experiment number 5, megascopic identification of metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks are formed from pre-existing rocks under the influence of 3 parameters such as temperature, pressure and chemically active fluids or solutions. I repeat once again, metamorphic rocks are formed from pre-existing rocks. Here, pre-existing rocks means either they may be igneous rocks or sedimentary rocks. So these two are called as pre-existing rocks because from the solidification of magma, igneous rocks forms first. From the igneous rocks, sediment rocks forms. Then third, metamorphic rocks are formed from the pre-existing rocks, means either it may be igneous or sedimentary under the influence of 3 parameters such as temperature, pressure, chemically active fluids or solutions. These 3 parameters, namely temperature, pressure, chemically active fluids, may act together, or sometimes only heat or temperature may act, otherwise sometimes temperature and pressure may act. Sometimes all the 3 parameters such as temperature, pressure, chemically active fluids may act. And so depending upon how the parameters involved, that is called as metamorphism. So these 3 act together to cause metamorphism. So this metamorphism changes the rock into another rock. So metamorphism is the process that occur in the rocks due to the effect of high temperature, high pressure and chemically active fluids. Metamorphic rocks, suppose if they are formed from igneous rocks, then they are called as orthometamorphic rocks. Otherwise, the metamorphic rocks which are formed from the sediment rocks, then they are called as parametamorphic rocks. Means metamorphic rocks are classified into 2 types, orthometamorphic rocks and parametamorphic rocks. So the difference is clearly explained here. So metamorphic rocks which have formed from the igneous rocks are called as orthometamorphic rocks, while the metamorphic rocks which are formed from sediment rocks are called as parametamorphic rocks. As a result of metamorphism, so when temperature, pressure, chemically active fluids, when they act alone or together, what happens? The pre-existing rocks, maybe igneous rock or sediment rocks, convert into a metamorphic rock. If we see the table, granite is an igneous rock. Granite changes to granitic gneiss when it undergoes metamorphism. That means when metamorphism acts over igneous rocks such as granite, it changes into granitic gneiss, that is a metamorphic rock. Similarly, peridotite is also an igneous rock. When it undergoes metamorphism, it will be converted into serpentine schist or talc schist. Gabbro or dunite are also belonging to igneous rocks. When these rocks undergo metamorphism, they will be converted into hornblende schist. Coming to sedimentary rocks, exclusively sandstone, when it undergoes metamorphism, it will be converted into quartzite, and limestone changes into marble, shale changes into slate. That is why granite, peridotite, gabbro, dunite are belonging to igneous rocks. Sandstone, limestone, shale are belonging to sediment rocks. So here both igneous rocks and sediment rocks are the pre-existing rocks. That is why the formation for the metamorphic rocks is due to metamorphism, which act either on sedimentary or igneous rocks. See, this is the best example, granite. When it undergoes metamorphism, it is changed into granitic gneiss. There is a lot of difference between these two rocks. Granite, granitic gneiss. How the stress is acting. This is what is shown here. Granitic gneiss. It is very important to know that the presence of chlorite and biotite in a metamorphic rock. So in the field, if we identify a metamorphic rock, so in which if the minerals are chlorite and biotite, then it gives an indication that low grade metamorphism taken place. Suppose if garnet and staurolite minerals are present in a metamorphic rock, that indicates it is a medium grade metamorphism. Similarly, kyanite and sillimanite minerals are noticed in a metamorphic rock, that shows it is a high grade metamorphism. So likewise, chlorite, biotite, garnet, staurolite, kyanite, sillimanite. That means sillimanite mineral is the best example for high grade metamorphism, whereas presence of chlorite in the rock indicates it's a low grade metamorphism. These are the series of minerals. Coming to the metamorphic rocks description. So we have to mention the color. Already it was explained: leucocratic, mesocratic, melanochratic. Leucocratic means light in color or pale in color. Mesocratic means medium color. Melanochratic means dark in color. And textures. Some of the textures can be seen in metamorphic rocks, which include foliation or lineation. So the difference between foliation and lineation is explained now. When lamellar minerals, bladed minerals, flaky minerals such as chlorite, mica, talc are flaky minerals. Bladed minerals means kyanite, syenite, etc. So these orient themselves parallel to one another is called as foliation. That means lamellar minerals, bladed minerals, flaky minerals, they orient parallel to one another. So that is called as foliation. In case of lineation, rod-like minerals, especially hornblende, tourmaline, actinolite, tremolite, these orient themselves parallel to one another. So all the minerals are parallel to one another. The only difference is, in case of foliation, we can find only lamellar, bladed, flaky minerals, whereas in case of lineation, rod-like minerals are parallel to one another. This is the difference between foliation and lineation. We can have the diagram, the difference between foliation and lineation. If we see the minerals, equidimensional minerals, that means mineral grains or mineral crystal faces are similarly equal in all dimensions. Those are called as equidimensional minerals. Sometimes quartz can be seen as a equidimensional mineral. Sometimes quartz can be seen inequidimensional. That means the grain size is not equal. So quartz, feldspar, pyroxenes, calcite are belonging to equidimensional minerals, and inequidimensional minerals means they are not equal. That means all the mineral grains are unequal in all dimensions. Prismatic minerals or rod minerals include hornblende, tourmaline, actinolite, tremolite, apatite. Whereas flaky minerals include mica, talc, chlorite. Mica include muscovite, biotite, phlogophyte minerals. This picture shows the forms of the minerals. For example, cube, it has 6 faces. Dodecahedron, it has 12 faces. This is a tabular form. This is a dipyramid form. This is the prismatic form. This is a fibrous form. This is scalohedral form. This is a radial form. This is the dendritic nature form. Acicular form. So the mineral shapes are sometimes looks in such a way. Coming to structures and textures which can be seen in metamorphic rocks. Gneiss structure, this is granitic gneiss. Granitic gneiss is always characterized by gneiss structure. That means we can find alternate bands, alternate grey band, white band, grey band, white band, grey band, white band, grey band, white band. That means the gneiss is always characterized with the alternate bands. That is the characteristic feature for granitic gneiss to identify in the field. Usually quartz, feldspars, pyroxenes, calcites are seen in the granitic gneiss, or we can call it as simply gneiss. Coming to structure, this is a mica schist. Flaky minerals, that means biotite, muscovite, phlogophyte, or platy minerals, they occur and appear in alternate bands. Here this is one band, this is another band, this is another band, this is another band. So mica schist, chlorite schist, hornblende schist, kyanite schist, in which the flaky minerals or platy minerals occur and they appear as alternate bands. So with this we can identify the schistose rocks in the field. So we can say the rock is showing schistose structure. Granulose structure. Granulose structure is produced due to the predominance of equigranular minerals. That means all the mineral dimensions are in equal size. Examples: quartz, feldspars, pyroxenes and calcite. So we can see granulose structure especially in the metamorphic rocks, namely marble and quartzite. Cataclastic structure. It is characterized by the development of extremely fine rock mass under the influence of crushing and shearing effects during metamorphism. That means rock fragments are reduced in size by crushing and grinding in the existing rock. We can see the cataclastic structure in metamorphic rocks, namely slate and mylonite. So in mylonite and slate we can see cataclastic structure wherein the rock is extremely fine rock mass under the influence of crushing. Xenoblastic structure, this is a texture. Till now we have seen some of the structures. Structures can be seen megascopically by studying the hand specimens in the field, whereas textures usually seen under a petroscopic microscope by making a thin section. So xenoblastic texture. Here the minerals of the rock have no well developed faces. That means whatever we see, the minerals have no well developed shape. There is no well developed shape. So we say that the rock is exhibiting xenoblastic texture. Idioblastic texture. Here the minerals of the rock have well developed faces. That means the shape is very clear. You can see here also the face is very clear. Porphyroblastic texture. So big minerals or phenocrysts are embedded in the fine-grained ground mass. You can see here, these are the phenocrysts or big minerals which are embedded in the fine-grained matrix. So in such a case we say the rock is exhibiting porphyroblastic texture. Granuloblastic texture, where the mineral granules are equidimensional. Almost all the minerals are equal in dimension. Ophytoblastic texture, small mineral grains which are embedded in a big mineral, that is big phenocryst. So in the phenocryst, small minerals are embedded. That in such a case we say that the rock is exhibiting ophytoblastic texture. Let us come to the identification of metamorphic rocks in the laboratory. So the first one is gneiss, which is designated as 1M. This is a gneiss, or we can call it as granitic gneiss. We can see very clearly the alternate bands: white band, grey band, white band, grey band, white band, grey band. That what I shown very clearly. The rock is exhibiting gneiss structure. So color is leucocratic, that is greyish white. Grains are coarse grained. We can see big grains. And foliation, color banding due to alternate light and dark minerals, and is foliated. Structure is gneiss structure. Essential minerals include feldspars, quartz, mica, whereas accessory minerals include garnet, ilmenite, hornblende, pyroxenes, kyanite, mica, talc. Coming to the origin point of view, gneisses are usually formed out of dynamothermal metamorphism, either of granites, cyanites, sandstones. And it is non-porous, it has a good strength. This can be used as a building stone, can be used as a road metal, can be used as a railway ballast. Even in case of tunneling, it doesn't require any lining. So varieties we can find orthogneiss and paragneiss and augengneiss. These are the varieties. And gneiss is a foliated metamorphic rock that has a banded appearance and is made up of granular mineral grains. It typically consists of abundant of quartz and feldspar minerals. Coming to the next mineral is schist. Schist is a metamorphic rock which is marked as 2M. So we can see very clearly it is silvery white in color, jet black. Of course, it's not jet black totally, silvery white or dark green. So medium to coarse grained minerals are present. Foliation can be seen because each mineral layer is parallel to one another and it is exhibiting schistostructure. It consists of mainly muscovite, maybe muscovite or biotite in mica group, and chloride and talc. So all the minerals are belonging to mica group and chloride, talc. And accessory minerals include kyanite, garnet, quartz, sterolite, feldspars, cardarite. So schists are usually formed due to dynamothermal metamorphism and the nature of metamorphic agents. So schists are considered very weak and unsuitable for foundation of dam or reservoirs, and it can be considered as a building stone for small houses, and it cannot be used for aggregate to make concrete, and can be used as a road metal to some extent, and schists are also unsuitable in case of tunneling. So there are so many varieties in the schist. Because of the dominance of mineral, the name is termed as mica schist, in which mica is dominant. Talc schist, here talc is dominant. Hornblende schist, that means hornblende mineral is dominant. Chloride schist, chloride mineral is dominant. Eclogite schist, that means it consists of pyroxenes, garnet and quartz. So this is the description about schist, and the next rock is quartzite. Quartzite rock is marked as 3M. It's a very compact rock and hard rock, and its color is reddish white, medium grained to coarse grained. It's non-foliated, no layers are seen here, and interlocking crystalline structure and granular structure can be seen. So it consists mainly quartz, and accessory minerals include feldspars, titanite, rutile. Quartzite forms when a quartz-rich sandstone is altered by the heat, pressure and chemical activity of metamorphism. So quartzite is used in architectural purpose, decorative purpose, construction purpose, and it can be used in the manufacturing of glass, ferrosilicon, manganese ferrosilicon, silicon metal, silicon carbide industries. Fuchsite quartzite is the variety in quartzite. So a specimen of quartzite that contains green fuchsite, that is a chromium rich muscovite mica. So fuchsite quartzite is economically important. The next rock is marble. This is the marble, and the rock is marked as 4M. It's a milky white in color, fine to medium grain, non-foliated, granular structure, and essentially the marble consists of calcite, and accessory minerals include serpentine, olivine, mica, tremolite, pyroxenes, chlorite, epidote, magnetite. Marbles are formed due to thermal metamorphism on limestones. So the source material for the formation of marble is limestone. So calcite is not only soft but also has 3 sets of well-developed cleavage. That's why this is not advisable in case of foundation of purpose for dams and reservoirs. Marbles provide aesthetic beauty and chosen for face works, wall panels, flooring purpose, statues, making, etc. And a beautiful Taj Mahal is also made by using marble. So varieties, we can see lot of varieties in the marble: white marble, pink marble, green marble, blue marble, like this. So this is the explanation on marble, a metamorphic rock. Coming to another rock is slate. Slate is a metamorphic rock which is marked as 5M. So it is blackish grey in color or black in color, very fine grained. It is a foliated rock, and it consists mainly clay minerals, mica minerals and a little bit quartz. So accessory minerals include talc, chlorite, calcite, pyrite, hematite, magnetite. It is formed due to dynamic or regional metamorphism of shale. So the source rock for the formation of slate is shale. Shale is a sedimentary rock. Slates are very soft and cannot withstand heavy loads, not suitable for foundation purpose due to cleavage. So slates split easily and can be used as a building stone for small houses. The next rock is phyllite. So this is the rock phyllite. The phyllite rock is marked as 6M. So it is mellochromatic, dark grey or dark greyish in color, fine grained, foliated. Essentially, phyllites consist of mica, and accessory minerals include talc, chloride, feldspars, pyrite, magnetite and a little quartz. And phyllite is formed due to dynamic or regional metamorphism of shales. So source rock is a sediment rock, that is shale. So due to cleavage, phyllites split easily into so many pieces and can be used as a building stone. And it is not suitable for foundation purpose, especially in case of dams and reservoirs. This is about phyllite, and the metamorphic rocks are explained in this session. So watch the video a number of times and personally visit Engineering Geology Lab and have a glance of all the metamorphic rocks for better idea, and the same may be verified in the field. Thank you once again. Thanks to everyone. Thank you.